First, I want to agree with Senator Sheehy. Transition, I think, is one of the most important areas that we can work on. I've always felt that the Defense Department should put as much money and effort into the transition out as they do to the recruiting in. One of the initiatives of the first Trump administration was a pre-registration of active duty veterans in the Veterans Administration, so that that was one step they didn't have to take. I think that's a good idea. I've got a bill to essentially continue and expand that. Is that something you could help us move forward with?
Thank you, Senator, for the question. I think that's a very good idea, and whether as Deputy Secretary, I would work with the JAC. Yes, I think that's something I could support.
Thank you. On the layoffs, here's the problem. You've testified, and the press release has been this was done in a thoughtful way with reviews and all those. I'm a great advocate of Ronald Reagan's admonition, trust but verify. I'd like to see some data about that verifies that, in fact, that took place. It's hard for me to believe that 1,000 people were laid off in a matter of weeks with that kind of thoughtful process that you're defining. I should also mention that given average attrition rates in the federal government, approximately 2,000 people have left the VA if the rates at the VA are the same as the rest of the government. So we're really not talking about 1,000 empty positions. We're talking about 3,000. Just in the last month, 2,000 a month is about the rate that would apply to the VA. So we're talking about a diminution in the number of people. And I know that some effort has been made to not, for example, apply the hiring freeze to medical personnel, direct providers. But I would argue that if nobody's there to answer the phone when a veteran calls for an appointment, and I think Senator Sheehy mentioned this, the difficulty of getting appointments, that's a denial of benefits. So it worries me that we're not really focusing on what exactly the role of those people are, and that the steps so far seem likely to diminish the availability of services to veterans. Your thoughts?
Thank you for the question, Senator. I agree, and thanks for the visit where you shared your experience with Governor and how you went about doing something similar. So thank you. That was very important perspective. I think
Did it in 8 months instead of 4 weeks. That was one difference.
Yeah, no, I took away that. Back to your question, I think that, if confirmed, I would also like to look at the data and see that it did in fact follow what I saw in the press release. And I think the Secretary committed to being very transparent about this. I don't want to speak for him, but I would talk to him about following through on that and sharing the information as well, so folks have a sense of trust in what took place. I also would go back to, as we talked about yesterday, the safeguard in place, which the person answering the phone, a level, an SES supervisor should be able to say, yes, they are critical, they should be opted out of this layoff. So hopefully that's where that took place.
By the way, I was agreeing with Senator Sheehy. I disagree with him on one thing, and that is electronic medical records. The original sin of the electronic medical records fiasco was a no-bid contract in the last Trump administration of a brand new system instead of going to the marketplace and seeing what was available in terms of proven existing systems that are operating all across the country. The other piece that worries me is that everybody in the VA, except apparently direct service providers, got the famous early retirement letter that, if you quit by September 30th, you'll get paid. Nobody can convince me that was thoughtful. In other words, that went to everybody. What if the best people leave, which is what a lot of people I've talked to said is going to happen, the people who can get good jobs immediately, the good people are going to leave. There's no way to define that letter that everybody in the federal government got, including shipyard workers at Portsmouth Naval Shipyard, the CIA, the Defense Department, and the VA. How do you defend that as a thoughtful process for redefining the federal workforce?
Thank you for that question, and I'm sorry to disappoint you. I wasn't there. I do not know the process under which, if confirmed, I'll look into it to better understand, but I have nothing to add.
I understand that, and I understand that you weren't there, and but you're the nearest thing we have to somebody to question on these issues today, so you're bad luck to be here. A couple of provisions from Project 2025, which I understand you had a limited contribution to, but I'm sure you're aware of. One of them is a suggestion for the VA: increase automation. The best way to provide benefits faster and more accurately is by using technology to perform most of the work. we're already learning in the private sector insurance companies that giving AI the decision about making these kinds of decisions doesn't work very well. Do you think increased use of technology and artificial intelligence in claims processing is a good idea?
Thank you for that question, Senator. If you notice, it said most of the work. The way a claim comes about is there's a lot of work where you gather information. It's what's called development. That's what takes so long, is getting all the veteran information to get it in front of somebody to make a decision. Technology can be used to gather that information faster, so a government employee, a claims adjudicator, can make the decision.
So you're testifying that you're not talking about AI making the decision. We're talking about simply automating the collection of data?
It's what's called development. That's correct, Senator. I think that the decision should be made by an individual, a VA employee, as required by law, I believe, but also to bring judgment into things. I think technology is great, but it's not the end-all and be-all.
Continuing, I guess I'm over my time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In 2020, Project 2025, which you